would know someone this true. All the time on my mind, baby, it's you. Taking me places that I never knew. And now you got me thinking this could be real life. Staying up through the night, talking about how we could see how this thing's gonna play out.
So the recipe's in the ebook.
Can't find my pen. Yeah.
Oh Jesus. These are recipes that you created yourself while you were prepping.
Yeah, well, over the years, I suppose, even like 5-6 years ago when I first got into counting my macros, and over the years of prepping, I've come up with so many different little creations. I'm definitely not the best cook, but these meal ideas are really simple, really delicious because I'm such a foodie, and really easy to track as well.
Yum.
Okay, so the first recipe that I'm making is a favorite from you guys, or as I've seen on social media, you're always asking me for the recipe for this one, and I have shared it before, but I'm actually going to make it for you here today so you can see exactly how it's done. These are my favorite protein pancakes, and it is the favorite recipe that I have for protein pancakes. There's a million other ways to do them, but this is how I do it. First ingredient that we've got is these oats. So I use gluten-free or wheat-free oats by Bob Red Mills. You can get these usually from Coles sometimes, or your health food shop. I always get questions on where to actually get these. They are the best. So I'm going to use 1 serving of those, and that is 50 grams. So I'm just gonna weigh that into a little blender here. Oh, it's actually perfect.
Yes!
Oh my god, that was actually perfect.
She's done this before, guys.
I'm a pro, I'm a pancake pro. Next ingredient we are going to use is my favorite protein, which is Hydroxyburn. This is by Body Science, and there is 3 flavors that I'm totally obsessed with. There is chocolate, we're using vanilla for the pancakes, and salted caramel is also to die for. I love this protein, and it mixes and keeps the pancakes together so well. Some proteins and some vegan proteins you might have trouble making pancakes with because they don't tend to stay together. So this one is definitely the best. It's got the best flavor as well, which is why I use it for the pancakes. So we're going to use 1 serving of that, which is the equivalent to 35 grams. The next ingredient is just 1 whole egg. You can use egg whites and kind of change the recipe to suit your macros if you need to have lower fats, but the egg yolk and the full egg really does combine the mixture and makes it all stick together. So I would recommend using the full egg. So just crack that into there.
It already smells so good. Is that the protein?
The protein's honestly so good. That's why I've been using this brand for 5 years, because I have such a sweet tooth, and with this one it tastes so good. It actually tastes like a treat in itself. So I honestly prefer this pancake recipe over buying pancakes out. It's so good. And lastly, the only other thing we need to put in here to blend it together is a little bit of water to the consistency that you like your pancakes. I don't like mine super thick, so I'm just going to add a bit of tap water in.
Very technical stuff here.
Yeah. Don't know how many grams that was. It's just, it turns out a little bit different every time. From there, you can kind of see the consistency and see if you want to add some more water, which I think I will because it looks a bit lumpy and still quite thick. So just add a little bit more water. But some people like their pancakes really thick and fluffy. I prefer to have more pancakes and thinner pancakes, so I just add more water.
We'll start a GoFundMe to get Mickey a new blender.
I need a new blender. I actually just thought I'm so going to text my mum because she's always asking me what I want for Christmas. I just came up with the best idea. I need a blender. Mum, if you're watching this. Okay, so that is the, there we go. Ah, there's the consistency that I like to have mine. So it is a little bit runny. Yeah, I know. I'm just making a mess. What's new? And we have, the pan is nice and hot. It's probably too hot because we've had it on for ages. But I like to use a non-stick pan so I don't have to spray oil in there because that's unnecessary fats. Obviously, when you're cooking with oil, you have to track that because you will be ingesting that. So all I do is just pour the mixture on, and I actually thin it out a little bit.
And how many pancakes do you normally make from one batch?
Usually it makes 3. That's a pretty big pancake, I just did that. So 2 to 3. Depends how big you like them and how thick you like it. I like eating more, so that's why I make it thinner, so I can have more pancakes. But you could definitely make them thicker and then probably make like 2 smaller ones, if that makes sense. This pan is really hot. When the bubbles start coming through, that's when you know that you should flip it.
Delish.
Yum. Honestly, this smells so good. She's done. Oh, I just broke it.
Oh.
A little bit.
So that's your 2 pancakes.
I hate when you see recipes though and it gives you like 1 pancake. I just couldn't deal with
It's
that.
a waste.
Like just 1 pancake, no one's gonna be full of 1. Gotta make it.
We're making real food. This is real food, guys.
For real hungry girls.
That's gonna be the tagline.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh no, the pen's really.
This is for a less hungry girl. This one.
Well, I went a bit too crazy with the first one. It's not very round.
Oh wow. Have confidence in this girl, guys.
Every morning I'm like, oh, that pancake's so good. I do make them like all the time. So.
Ta-da!
Okay, so my favorite toppings for these pancakes is definitely honey. If you want to, you can use sugar-free maple syrup as well, which is lower calories, but I just use a drizzle of honey. I love to put this Chobani Fit passion fruit flavor yogurt, which also adds even more protein. This recipe is so high in protein, which is great because you start your day off with a big protein hit, and that is what most women really struggle to actually get their protein up and struggle to hit. So then I also put blueberries on top, but I'm actually going to heat these up because I like pouring it over, as you'll see in a minute, and strawberries. So berries are really low calorie and a perfect topping option.
Toption, if you will.
That's good. Alright, to weigh something like the yogurt, when obviously I'm not using the whole tub, I will just clear that out, so level it out, and then scoop out how much I want to put on top of my pancakes. So I'm going to use about 85 grams, or 75 to 85 grams here. There we go. Alright, so what we're going to do is just drizzle it all the way over. 14 grams. Easy does it. I think that was 1 serve. 15 grams.
That's amazing.
It's really a talent.
It's not her first rodeo, guys.
Alright, and then we're going to heat the blueberries. So I'm just going to get a handful. I usually like to use about 30 grams. Perfect. And I'm just going to heat them up for 30 seconds.
So that's your heated blueberries.
Yeah, and it has such a good flavour to it. And it kind of like doubles as a syrup, like you don't have to add anything in there.
Yeah.
And it's really nice.
That looks really good.
And then I just pick up the strawberries and I just kind of put that all on top. There we go.
And done.
Delicious. Alright, so now it's for the photography part. Just got our little prop. Looks so good. Okay. That can be our thumbnail. Okay. I have wanted to create a recipe ebook for quite some time, which has, I guess, the whole collection of all these little recipes and meal ideas that I have, I guess, come up with over the years that are really macro friendly, that are really easy to make. Like, if I can make it, guys, you definitely can. They're really quick, they're really simple, they're easy to track, and I guess that is the main reason why I wanted to create this book so you can have a reference all in one place. But more than that, even with my clients as well, I find that rigid meal plans are just not sustainable long term, because no one wants to eat the exact same thing and be restricted to their food choices. Like, look at that. And
for breakfast, like you don't feel like you're missing out.
Exactly.
When you're eating food like this every day.
Exactly. So I wanted to create so many different options that you can choose and look just for breakfast, lunch ideas, even like higher protein meal ideas, to be able to fit into your macros so you aren't missing out.
And food swaps as well. So like there's so many alternatives to things that we, you know, have grown up eating, but you know, things like the edamame pasta you use for your spaghetti that adds so much valuable macros.
Exactly.
And it's so nice to get protein, you know, from an actual source of food rather than just fitting in an extra shake in your day.
Exactly.
This is so good. Like, have some. I'll literally eat this whole plate. I think one of the biggest reasons I personally have struggled with diets in the past is because you feel like you're missing out, and you see people eating delicious food that looks so good, and you're sitting there eating like tuna and brown rice, and there are so many other options out there for you.
I used to be a clean eater, and I used to think that the only way to be like truly fit and healthy was if I was really strict on my food and only eating clean foods, and I just felt so restricted, and I would always binge. I'm the biggest foodie, so that just made me, like, the thought of eating that way forever made me feel really depressed. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, how do people do this? So it's so good to be able to be flexible, still eating whole foods, getting an array of micronutrients and vitamins and minerals, hitting your macros like your protein, and still being able to make and eat really delicious food. So I guess that's what the whole ebook is all about, and teaching you how to be more flexible with your food choices throughout the day to make those swaps as well.
I guess giving people ideas of how they can create their own meal plans,
100%.
Realizing how to break down your meals into macros, and also understanding what things you can add to those meals, and add, you know, chobani, which will add more protein, which a lot of women especially are missing from their diet.
100%. Like, the number one point that I notice with most of my clients is that they are under eating on protein, and they always say to me that they struggle on ways to bring up their protein. And a lot of women also don't like just eating a whole heap of meat as well. So there's so many other ways that you can do that, and that's why I've created these recipes this certain way. Like, there's a reason why I put the chobani on top, because it's a whole heap of extra protein that you're getting first thing in the morning, and then you can be a bit more flexible with your protein intake throughout the day.
Yeah.
This is really good. This is good. I may say so myself. I mean, I have them all the time, but
they're delicious.
So now what I want to show you is how I like to make my pasta. And a really easy, quick dish that I like to make is spaghetti bolognese, and it tastes amazing. So first of all, I wanted to show you, I guess, the different pastas that you can use and exactly how I make mine depending on my macros. So the first thing I wanted to kind of touch on, I've got 3 different pastas here. These are all gluten-free because I'm gluten intolerant. So we've got your standard gluten-free pasta. We've got your pulse pasta, which is made from peas, lentils, chickpeas, and borlotti beans. And then we've also got your edamame spaghetti. So I wanted to just quickly run you through these 3 because obviously they're all gluten-free pasta, and like, which one should you choose? And the answer is you can choose any of them. It just depends what macros you're wanting to hit within your spaghetti bolognese. So say I use this gluten-free pasta, it is really high in carbohydrates, and there is not much protein in it and a little bit of fat. So this one is just really high carb for a pasta, as pasta is a carb, so that's pretty stock standard. Now if we look at the edamame bean spaghetti, this one is really low carbs. So if you have a look on the back, it's high protein, so you've got 7 grams of protein per serve, and the carbs is only 2 grams, plus the 3.6 in fiber as well. Just take that into consideration. So if you ever want to compare pastas, another way to do it is just by looking at the average quantity per 100 grams rather than at the serving size. As you can see, the serving size on these 2 are both different. So to get an accurate comparison, you would look at the 100-gram mark. As you can see, this one has double the amount of protein in it, and it has only 4 grams of carbs, whereas this one has 77 grams of carbs. So if you were on a lower calorie or lower carb intake, or you wanted to save your carbs for another meal and you wanted to just be more macro friendly with your spaghetti bolognese, this would be a really good option. Obviously, being high fiber, just make sure you stick to the serving size because it can cause bloating in that one. And then the pulse pasta, in comparison, again, I really like this one. However, it isn't as low carb as the edamame spaghetti. It is actually still really quite high. If you look at the 100-gram serving, it's 56.7 grams of carbs, but it's got 21 grams of protein. So this is awesome for vegans or people who are vegetarian or people who struggle to get in their protein, because there's 20 grams of protein just in the pasta. So if you didn't want to use a meat in your dish and you wanted to just use diced tomatoes and like a sauce and some vegetables, you're still getting 20 grams of protein within this pasta. But for today, I am going to show you a really low carb, high protein spaghetti bolognese. We're going to use edamame bean spaghetti, as this is one of my favorites, so let's get started. Okay, so the beef that I always use, I always make sure to get a really low fat meat or cut of meat. So the mince I get is the 95% meat and only 5% fat. So just try and opt for the lowest fat option so that you can use your fats in more healthier fat options rather than animal fats. So what I'm going to do is just put this straight into a non-stick pan. Alright, so you're just cooking that one. You can add in some salt. I like to use pink Himalayan salt. And now that our water has boiled, I'm going to put in the edamame bean spaghetti. So with all of the tracking, just to make it easy, as always, you weigh the whole packet. Make sure that if you're going to weigh it back with no lid or whatever, like on milk, that you take the lid off before you level out the scales. So what I'm going to do then is just bring a handful across and straight into the water. And I was after 50 grams, and that was just over. Alright, I'm going to add the mushrooms, so I'm just adding about 50 or 60 grams to the whole mix. It just depends on how much mushrooms you want. Next, I'm just adding in some diced tomatoes. So this is what I use as the sauce, and it's just a tin of 100% diced tomatoes. I like getting a brand like this rather than getting like a bolognese sauce because they have so many other additives in there. And this one is Ardmona, but I do really like Annalisa diced tomatoes as a brand. They're really low calorie, so in one serve of this there's only 27 calories, so that's awesome for all natural based sauce. So when you are tracking a meal like this, when you're cooking more in bulk or you're cooking a larger quantity of like meats and pastas, I get a lot of questions on how to actually track this because it can get really confusing if you're wanting to track, for example, your meat and weigh it raw, and then how do you track that once you've made a full meal and divide it up. So as a rule of thumb, what I would do is always track on your MyFitnessPal as to how the ingredients and nutritional information is listed on the packet. So for example, when you're doing mince or chicken or raw meat, the most accurate way to do it is actually weigh it as raw and then cook it. So the reason why this can get really confusing is obviously the weight of the product will change as you cook it. So with the mince, for an example, it was 500 grams of mince right in here. One serving as per on the back of the nutritional guide was 125 grams. So knowing that there's 500 grams of mince in here, I will weigh this whole pan once I am done and divide it into 4 equal amounts, meaning that there's 125 grams of the mince in each meal. So I'll divide it into 4 meals. Same with the sauces. So I used a whole 400 gram jar. So when I divide it into 4 meals, that makes it easy. Once again, I know when I'm tracking it, it's 100 grams in the serving, because here it actually says the serving size is 200 grams. So when I enter it into MyFitnessPal, I need to make sure that I put 0.5 to say it's half a serving, if that makes sense, because you're not using a whole serving in your one meal. Same with the spaghetti. Obviously, when you cook it, it is going to be a very different weight to when it's dry because you've added water to it. So again, what you would do is you would either only cook the amount that you're going to use, but that can get annoying if you're cooking in bulk and cooking, if you want to cook more than just one meal at a time, like with rice and stuff like that as well. What you would do is cook it all, again, get the end result weight of the pasta and then divide it by how many servings are in the pack, and in this instance it's 4 once again. So that makes it really easy to make 4 equal meals. We have plated up the spaghetti bolognese. It looks so good. So we've got the mince, the diced tomatoes, mushrooms. What we're going to top it with is parmesan, and I love adding parmesan on top of my meals because it's so finely grated and it has such good flavor and also adds extra protein to your meal. So I'm just going to use a little pinch of that, which will be around 10 grams, and just put it all over the top.
You're just having the best day ever.
I really am, because I'm eating all my favorite foods.
So of
So good.
5 meals that we've cooked.
It's like my happy food dance. I've got it all over my face.
This is so good.
Can confirm, it's delish.
I was only meant to have one bite. I was like, oh, I'll just taste it. And now I'm like, nope, I'm eating the whole thing. So Jess is just taking photos of our French toast. So it's a protein French toast. And we did 2 different variations. So one has honey, carrot milk, and blueberries and looks delicious. And the other one had Nutella, strawberries, and a halo top. Very extra.
Oh.
Alright.
That's a wrap. We're done.
Okay, you take over because I'm struggling with this outro.
Okay.
Guys, it has been a long day. We've just wrapped up filming and creating the content. Our very first day for the ebook, so we did get through quite a few recipes. I think there was about 6 different recipes with like different variations, so it was awesome.
Bearing in mind, we also ate every single one of them.
I hope you enjoyed this little behind the scenes vlog of our very first day working towards this really exciting project, and I cannot wait for more to come.
You guys are gonna love it, I promise.
Gonna play out. We don't think